Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. For patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated, liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite, liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water, they're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite, liberal Dan radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite, liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversations, we may open up the phone lines in a little bit. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. And when we put the image up, you will know that it's time to call in if you want to. Otherwise, you can always leave your comments, questions, concerns, etc. over on the liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel, or twitch.liberaldanradio.com, which is obviously the Twitch channel. Again, today is my anniversary. We've been married 18 years, but my wife, she wanted to go take a long soak. It's been helping her psoriasis, which is good for her. So we just came back from dinner, had a delicious, expensive dinner. It was very good, new place, highly recommend it. So we had a good time. Of course, we also just came back from our week in Myrtle Beach with the kiddos and my dad and stepmom and stepsister and her family. So it was all a good time. I was quite exhausted at the end of the week, simply because walking around all that with my horrible knees, still kind of in pain. But, wait, I'm sorry. That's...
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so, hey, Jackie and Josh, Susie, Jan, the goddess Kimchi, all in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us on this later Monday show than we normally do. But again, it is what it is. So hopefully more people might trickle in. I got a nice little surprise Saturday night about something that was going to happen this morning, and we will play that in a second. But we'll wait for a little bit. Hey, Michael, what's going on? Good to see you. Thank you for joining as well. Where are we? We're in New Orleans. I'm back from vacation, and we're, again, just figured there's lots of stuff to talk about, and figure might as well just do a show now. And this is going to be a more off the cuff, just kind of like talking about random stuff show, maybe open up the phone lines in a bit. Nothing really structured about everything. Obviously, a few things I do want to record, few things that I do want to talk about that need to be talked about. So anyway, I got 10 viewers now. We'll see. We might pause that for a little bit. But I guess there was good news that my wife got. Was it Thursday? It was either Wednesday or Thursday. I think it might have been Thursday, which was that for the longest time we were just under the impression that because her reflexes were off, that she wasn't going to be able to help drive at all, and then I was going to have my kid with a learner's permit drive some of the way to Myrtle Beach. But Thursday, my wife got permission, or got clearance from her doctor to actually drive again. So we drove. I drove still most of it, but we surprised the kids because the kids had no clue. And when we swapped rides, they were like, "What? You can drive?" And I'm like, "Yep, she can drive." So it's another big positive step in the right direction for her. So I'm very happy for her. It's just good that she keeps improving. So I'm very happy about that. What else? Beach was nice. We missed a tropical storm hitting Myrtle Beach by a day. So I was like, man, imagine if we go from New Orleans all the way to Myrtle Beach and then have to get a tropical storm. But we were leaving as the rain was just starting to trickle in, and we got back before it hit. So what's up, Jeff? Ali told me Dan was on. I was on eBay bidding on shit I don't need, just want. Well, why not, right? Apparently tomorrow is Amazon Prime Day. I have to redo my Amazon Prime account thing that would allow people to buy things on Amazon Prime Day, simply because, if you want to buy something on Amazon Prime and help the show, you'd be able to use that link. But I think my old links are not working properly because I don't think enough people used it. So anyway, we'll fix that at some point too. So let's see. Tim's in the house. Good to see you, Tim, as well. Aaron is also in the house. Thank you for joining, Aaron. Did let the mods know that I was starting, but it was a little late. I did have to download a couple of things before getting things started. And I guess I'll just go ahead and play this now before I get to the main topics of the show, which is Jeff Carrere's radio program. Jeff Carrere, the reason why I started doing some AI stuff to counteract the programming of the creative director, and I was shocked on Saturday. He actually responded to my email. This is from Jeff Carrere's show earlier this morning.
All right, so one more clip. We had, of course, our creative director, Steve Konis, does a great job with us on Thursdays, and one of his creations was a response to liberal dandruff, as he called him, our caller, Liberal Dan. So I told Liberal Dan we would air his response to the creative director in the name of fairness and openness and free speech. I'm not going to continue to do this back and forth, but I guess we've got some people that are getting pretty skilled on AI. So let's check out Liberal Dan's response to our creative director, and let's go to clip number 6.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him Liberal Dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, 'cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, 'cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the...
All right. Liberal Dan. All right, 504-556-9696 to join us. Jeff Carrere here. It is.
All right, so there you go. My song, my parody, got played through the entirety of the Jeff Carrere's audience. So we'll see. We'll see if that ends up. It was kind of a catch-22. I wasn't quite sure if I actually wanted that to happen, because maybe some of his listeners will be like, oh, it goes live at 8. Let's figure out when that is. And then we might get some more conservative commenters, callers, etc. I'm not afraid of that, but you never know. And of course, thank you to Big Hook again for coming up with the Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Have to definitely give Big Hook kudos for that one. Thank you for everybody else who has joined in whilst we were playing the parody again. One of the things that's interesting, I maybe should have made this Hypocrite of the Week, but maybe I will make it Hypocrite of the Week for Wednesday's show, but I didn't have enough time to do any processing of any sort of bits other than just getting that clip real quick. But as we were driving, I'm always amused when we're driving through the South to see the abject hypocrisy that comes from the politicians who are Republicans across the South. Now, there was a whole lot of construction going on the interstates that we were traveling on, especially between Atlanta and Mobile, Alabama. And as we were traveling, we would see these signs every now and then. Of course, the time I realized, let's get a picture of one of these signs. We didn't see a sign again for the rest of the trip, but there was these signs up all across Alabama that said, "Building for America, Alabama, building for America." And I'm sitting there like, yeah, Alabama, who is the one that gave you the funds, that provided the funds, that made sure that the legislation got passed to grant you the funds so that you can build your infrastructure? Maybe that was Joe Biden. President Biden is the one that got all these southern states. And this is what happens. All of that, like, people mocked President Obama back when he was president for his shovel-ready jobs, and they claimed, oh, there are no shovel-ready jobs. But then we would drive through the South, and we would say, oh, Mississippi, here's a whole bunch of construction happening just for you, the taxpayers. And I'm like, yeah, but that was President Obama that did that. These people are never willing to give credit where the credit is due. And if a conservative does something right, I will give them credit where the credit is due, because I want to encourage people to do the right thing instead of the wrong thing. But even in Louisiana, you had a situation where Governor Landry was getting Gumbo 2.0, and it was paid for by who? The Infrastructure Act that President Biden signed that established increased broadband across, rural areas that were exceedingly lacking in such things. Did Jeff Landry give credit to President Biden? Nope. Now, of course, Donald Trump and his administration, as we talked about the other day, took away those funds. So who's going to get the blame now? Can't blame Biden, because then you'd have to admit that it was Biden that gave you the money in the first place. He didn't take it away from you. That was Trump. So again, I'm still waiting to see that happen. Anyway, but just sheer hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. And as you drive across the South, you'll see it over and over and over again. So there's that. Houston got new gas line infrastructure from Biden. Nice. Exactly. I mean, Biden provided lots of things with legislation that he passed, but that now either the Republicans are taking credit for it when they have the money, and when the money gets taken away, they're not going to blame Trump for taking the money away, are they? Because how dare they not kiss the ring and instead kiss the ass of Donald Trump. So, why did she swallow the fly? I don't know why she swallowed the fly. Perhaps she'll die. What's up, Progressively Independent? Good to see you. Thank you for joining as well. I did have another thought, and every time I wanted to make a short video about this when I was on vacation, I kept on getting interrupted, because I would be ready to make the video, and then all of a sudden, in comes more people into the house. And we were in a condo with 11 total people. Me, myself, my wife, 2 kids, my dad, my stepmom, my stepsister, her husband, their 2 kids, and then another kid that's my other stepsisters who just came down with them. So it was a very big place to live in for the week, but it was also, very crowded. So they kept, it's fine. I didn't expect to do much in terms of Liberal Dan Radio over the course of my vacation, but I made 1 or 2 videos. But, here's one of the things that I was thinking about over the course of that week, which was, you imagine you are a conservative. I know it's hard to consider that, but imagine you're a conservative. Imagine you are conservative and you support the right to own and bear arms, and you're carrying a weapon on you. And let's say you happen to see somebody getting, accosted on the sidewalk. You see somebody and a bunch of people wearing masks and no other identifying information, wearing caps, wearing masks, maybe wearing, other outfits like camo, but not really showing who they are. And then they're grabbing somebody and about to shove them in a van. And the van is not marked either. What are you going to do? Are you going to just sit there and watch it happen? Or are you going to be the person who steps in and prevents a crime from taking place? Because no way for you to know what's going on with it. So are you going to step in and try and stop them from, taking those actions? Or are you going to sit back and let it happen? Most conservatives would like to tell you that if they saw something going on, that they would step in, that they would use their gun, that they would use the force that they so want to use, because a lot of these people are definitely bloodthirsty, that's for sure. But they will sit here and they'll tell you that all day long. But then what happens if they use that force and it ends up being that the people doing it were federal law enforcement, like ICE or Border Patrol, who are acting without wearing any sort of identifying marks, saying that they are ICE or Border Patrol or any sort of other federal law enforcement, and they're protecting their identities, and they're protecting their faces, and they're protecting anybody from knowing who the hell they are. Will somebody step up, and then what will happen to that person? Will that person get blamed for it? Because they then obstructed justice? But how would they know? How would they have known that they were obstructing justice if they're not identifying themselves? Which is one of the reasons why I would think it would behoove and be in the best interests of the people who are in law enforcement, especially federal law enforcement, who are enforcing the immigration and naturalization laws that this country has, and sometimes not doing it well and grabbing people who don't need to be deported or who shouldn't be deported. But, we'll get to more of that in a second. But, they're risking their own lives, not in a smart way, not in a heroic way. But somebody's going to see them doing one of these things, and they're going to step up and try and protect the perceived innocent person who's just getting kidnapped off the side of the street. And what's going to happen when that happens? I know what I'll say. I will have the back of who. It might not be even a conservative person. Maybe it's just a leftist with a weapon who feels that they need to step in and protect the individual who is being accosted and kidnapped off the side of the street, as far as they know. And if somebody did step up and try and protect an individual who is being seized in the middle of the street, in the middle of the sidewalk or wherever, without people identifying who the hell they are and showing them, hey, we are law enforcement, we're doing our jobs, I'm going to have the back of the person who's protecting the innocent person getting kidnapped, getting human trafficked, and not the, unidentified potential law enforcement officers who aren't, showing themselves and showing who they are. What do you think? Would you blame the individual for stepping up and trying to protect a perceived innocent person? Or are you going to have the back of law enforcement who is acting in a suspicious and what I would think should be considered an illegal way? Let me know. See, the deportation shit show, Big Hook says, will tank the economy and has $100,000 price tag per person, waste of taxes. Yes, that's true. Legal Eagle did a thing on this with no clear answer to the legality of mask ICE agents. Well, I guess me and Legal Eagle are in the same position because we don't. I basically said the same thing. There is no clear answer to the legality of masked ICE agents or to what might happen if somebody did step in and say, let's protect this individual and prevent them from getting kidnapped. So, enjoy Deep Space Nine, Suzanne. You could always watch more of this later if you want. Hey, Troll Slayer, good to see you, Kevin. Let's see, what else? The worst book I read to my kids was a series of unfortunate events that almost killed me reading that. Nice. Storms knocked out power last night. I sat here with a candle for about 4 hours. That sucked. Ooh, imagine. Because one of the things, I left my TV on when I was gone, and I came back and the TV was still on, which means that I never lost power when I was gone, which is a nice thing to be able to know. So, because who knows, if you go out of town and you have food in your fridge and you don't know if your power went out, then what happens if you just take a sip and all your food's bad? That would just suck. So at least by leaving the one TV on, I knew that I didn't lose power during the course of my vacation. Of course, the litter box that I have, this automated litter box, was too full and never actually worked the entire week. So now I'm having to find things around the house for my kitties that my kitties may have left for me to go find and clean up afterwards, which is not going to be fun. Yes, exactly, Mike. Thugs mask themselves. Exactly. They all never wanted to wear masks when the pandemic was on. Again, that's another thing. That's a sheer hypocrisy of conservatism. When it came to protecting other people, conservatives refused to wear masks. But when it comes to protecting their own identities, when it comes to illegal action by federal law enforcement, now conservatives are all about them wearing masks, right? Conservative requires hypocrisy. Conservatism requires hypocrisy in order for them to actually do what they do and say what they say. Exactly, Aaron. Dan Kitty presidents. Yes, unfortunately. Your public service announcement for courtesy of Liberal Dan will always leave your TV on while vacationing. And then someone might think they're, someone's home too while you're gone. So there you go. Hippo Krakow? What? Did I say it wrong? Whatever. Have there been any copycat abductions made to look like ICE? Would it be hard? It wouldn't be hard. 250 kilo says over on the Twitch chat. So, but let's see. I did call in to Jeff's shows today after he played my clip, my bit, which, again, I'm still impressed that he did. So, again, who knows if we're going to see more listeners and more conservatives who might be like, hey, eight, where is he live at 8? I was surprised they actually let that on. I didn't like bleep it or whatever, but whatever, it's cool. Anyway, so I called in today because there are a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One of them being the concentration camp in Florida, what they're calling Alligator Alcatraz. Now, some people are calling it Alligator Auschwitz, but I disagree with that. It's not Alligator Auschwitz. Auschwitz actually had, death chambers in it. I think it's more appropriate to call it Alligator Dachau. Dachau was a Nazi concentration camp. It was obviously near the town of Dachau, Germany, outside of Munich. It was the first permanent concentration camp established by the Nazis in March 1933. Shortly after Hitler became chancellor, Dachau served as a model for all later Nazi concentration camps and as a training center for SS guards. Again, it was opened March 22nd, 1933. Initially, it was a camp for political prisoners. It expanded to include various groups deemed enemies of the state. Over 200,000 people from all over Europe were imprisoned at Dachau and its numerous subcamps between 1933 and 1945, including political opponents, Jews, the Romani, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and others. Prisoners were subjected to brutal treatment, forced labor, and medical experiments. At least 40,000 prisoners died at Dachau from disease, malnutrition, overwork, and executions. So, again, there's no actual, death area at the Alligator Alcatraz or Alligator Dachau at this point. But again, these conservatives and Jeff Carrera just pitched a fit when I brought up the whole thing as it pertains to calling it Alligator Dachau, because he just hates it when Trump is called a Nazi. Now, you know me, I've talked about this before. I never called George W. Bush a Nazi. I never wanted to refer to any other president as a Nazi because I felt using such language would normally demean the loss of life of all of the people who were executed by the Nazis. However, when you have somebody that follows Hitler's playbook to a T, like Donald Trump has, I think it then becomes apt. And that's why you don't call people Nazis who aren't really Nazis, because it then enables you to call them Nazis when they are being Nazis. Like Laura Loomer, for example. Laura Loomer, Trump ally. Haven't heard Trump say anything about her comments yet, but I haven't seen many conservatives say anything negative about her comments yet either, where she basically said that by opening up this Alligator Dachau, or Alligator Alcatraz as they refer to it, that it would provide 65 million meals to alligators. 65 million meals. What is 65 million? 65 million is not the amount of people who the Trump administration are seeking to deport, at least at the moment. 65 million are not all of the Hispanic folks, Latinx people who are here seeking asylum, who are across the border in violation of our border policy, or who are otherwise not here with, paperwork, who are undocumented. It's not even the non-citizens who are here legally. 65 million is the number of people who are Hispanic who are in this country total, including citizens, including legal residents, including everything else. And now you have Laura Loomer out there openly saying that she believes that every single Hispanic person should be fed to the alligators. This is Nazi crap. This is what Nazis say. This is what Nazis do. Of course, you also had Kristi Noem, old dog killer Kristi Noem, sitting there smiling and laughing and having a good old time at Alligator Alcatraz or Alligator Dachau, as the Florida GOP is selling shirts, selling merchandise for, celebrating the fact that they want to feed the Latino people to alligators, and who are all just, joking. Oh, they'll have to bob and weave, Trump says. I'm sure Trump has never bobbed and weaved in his life. But he would have to bob and weave. Go serpentine when you're running away from the alligator. Don't run in a straight line, supposedly. I don't know how many times Donald Trump has ever had to run away from an alligator or not. One would think that the first would be the last, but
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But yeah, all of these things, just sheer utter levels of deplorableness, brought to you by this racist, bigoted administration. Let's see. Every time you say Nazi, my stomach turns. I can't watch the news this week. Been hiding in the clouds, Kimchi. I mean, sorry, but, gotta call it what it is. And again, because if we don't stand up to these idiots, then it's going to keep getting worse. Hold on. See, KHOU shared a video with two dressed as police, the Harris County Sheriff's Department, and this was not their operation. Interesting. How about the one showing up his ice and then robbing places, committing crimes? I wouldn't be surprised. Gator Gulag, that's another good name for it. Gator Gulag, Alligator Dachau. Again, I'm not calling it Auschwitz, I'm calling it Dachau. Auschwitz was later. And we want to make sure that all this stuff that happened afterwards don't happen. We should have made sure that this doesn't happen now either, but we're too stupid as a country to not reject Donald Trump and his Nazi cronies. See, I've been waiting a decade for people to admit it was, but I was hoping before. Thank you, Aaron, for subscribing for 18 months. Hey, you subscribed for 18 months and I've been married for 18 years. Just, whatever. Jesse Owens couldn't outrun an alligator. Probably not. But I could totally outrun the alligator. Nobody's faster than me. I'm the fastest idiot alive. The floods in Central Texas have been a nice distraction, except for the loss in life and property. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Trump was more than happy to see those people, get whatever was going to get to them. But which is another thing to talk about today that I wanted to talk about. And there's three main things: what we just talked about with Alligator Dachau, and then there's getting what you voted for. And there are some people who are trying to, on the left, who are trying to play the moral high ground and be like, we should not be cheering for what's going on. I'm like, I'm not saying we should cheer what is going on. I don't believe that kids should be held responsible for the actions of their parents and any children who lost their lives in the Texas floods, or for anything else that may or may not have had anything to do with Trump's horrible decisions as president. And I don't wish that on any innocent person that had no say in what's going on. That being said, with, things that we do know are coming, like, the cuts to Medicaid, which actually won't be coming until 2027 because they don't want the pain to hit until after the elections. Those things are absolutely verifiable that they are cutting it and it's going to harm people. Then there's, the flooding in Texas. And it was the statements of the officials in Texas state government who said that the NOAA failed them. Now, other people are coming out more recently today and trying to say, oh, no, they were fine. And who do we believe? I don't believe anything is good coming out of this administration. It is the responsibility of the administration to show that what they did and how the NOAA responded to the impending threat that these storms were going to cause. Was that good enough or not? But even if it was, even if they did do everything right, the amount of crap that this administration has done to harm people, to put people needlessly at risk, will make you think, well, what did Trump have to do with this? Because everything they're doing is harming people. And there's no way to deny that, because you can see it numerically. You can see it there are even people who are talking about people being loaded into airplanes and chains and then being dropped out of the planes in the middle of the ocean and washing up on the beaches. Now, again, That's all hearsay. That's all things that I've heard from other people that I haven't seen verified by any other sources. But again, I have such distrust in the media right now as it pertains to their inability to call out this administration for the things that they do. I would be shocked to see anybody actually reporting these things, because the media is so worried about kissing Trump's ass so that they can, not be punished. For example, Paramount, CBS, is now settling the 60 Minutes lawsuit because they want to merge. So they're going to give Donald Trump millions of dollars just so they can merge. Don't give Nazis any money. You don't want to give Nazis any money. And especially don't settle. Defend your First Amendment rights to do what it is that you do as a news agency. I mean, what they're doing as a new news agency now is becoming less and less trustworthy, because if they're going to just bow and bend to Herr Trump, why would we believe them? Why? Which is why I'm consistently saying that we need new media. And it's up to everybody to push for new media to come into place. Media who is not going to bend over backwards and forwards for Trump. Media who's not going to just parrot information coming out of the administration. Simple as that. But again, what I wish for, because again, I don't want kids to die. I don't want innocent people who had no choice in this decision to croak or whatever. But people should get what they voted for. If you voted for Project 2025's cutting of NOAA and National Weather Service and the splitting up of all that stuff, if you voted for cuts, in Medicaid, if you voted for all that stuff, I hope y'all suffer from that first. Again, some progressives I live in Ohio, and Ohio voted for Trump in similar numbers, and if my grandchildren died, you're going to blame all of Ohio voters for them dying? I'm like, no. I wouldn't blame all of Ohio voters for voting in Donald Trump. I would blame all of the people in Ohio who voted for Trump for helping to get Trump elected. And those are the people who should get what they voted for. If you didn't vote to lose Medicaid, you shouldn't be one of the ones losing Medicaid. If you voted to cut Medicaid, you should be the first one to step in line and say, you can take my Medicaid here, have it. But they won't. Why? Because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. But again, all I'm going to advocate for is that people get what they voted for. And maybe when people start feeling more and more pain, they'll start realizing that they made a frickin' mistake. Of course, maybe I'm being overly optimistic with that. It's hard to be optimistic at all in this administration, but, at some point there has to be pain points for people to say, this is enough. I give up. Some people might be masochistic. Some people might not even care. Some people are going to think, well, it's not going to bother me. It's not going to affect me. And then when it does, they'll make some excuse as to why it was like Biden's fault or some other Democrat's fault or whatever. But the pain that you voted for should be the pain that you receive. And if you voted for pain, you should receive the pain first. Simple as that. See, Brett, no, corporations is everything, and neither political party has been willing to tax them for the last 50 years. Now we have no money because they have it all. I mean, I'd say that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, of the two parties, the Democrats are more willing to tax them. Of course, there are corporatist Democrats who do pander to the corporations as well, and I'm all for replacing them with people who are willing to back labor and not, the ownership class. But see, I will admit, Brett says, I'll admit reading a history book was much easier to understand fascism, but I feel like living through it, I understand it better. Unfortunately, that's probably true. Moon Girl, I didn't realize Dan was on, watching a 15-year-old Darkwave contest, something light and fun. But thank you for joining us. Again, I wasn't supposed to be on. This is my anniversary, but, wife's taking a bath, So, and there's not room enough in the tub for 2 of us because I am still, even though I've lost 120 pounds, I'm still not that skinny to be able to fit in the tub with somebody else, especially that tub. So no dual bathing at this point. And with her legs being a little wibbly wobbly still, trying to deal with all of her stuff from her hospital stay, and with my knees being as horrible as they are, still not going to be a great place to be with 2 people in a tub, let alone 1 person in a tub. So thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I look at old videos and I see like videos that I made, and I'm like, God damn, you could definitely see the difference in the face. And of course, I'm waiting, say, oh, I lost 120 pounds. Wow, I could really see it in your face. And then do the John Panette joke. Wow, how big was my face? So, yes, thank you, Moon Girl. Appreciate it. It's like 120 from my heaviest, which was probably about 1.5 years ago. I lost maybe about 30 or 40 on Trulicity, and then my insurance stopped covering that, but then my new insurance started covering Zepbound, and then after 6 months of headaches trying to get them to do the paperwork right, I finally got on the Zepbound, and then since then I've probably lost around maybe whatever that math is, like 80 pounds afterwards. So, but yes, 18 years married, so it just proves that sometimes my wife doesn't make the greatest life choices. So, see, 250 code. This is anecdotal. Vital communication positions at NOA are empty in San Antonio and elsewhere in the world. Elsewhere, the word didn't get out. I've also heard the government's answer on the info was available on Shitter. Might have been, but again, speaking of that, so that's the 4th thing I wanted to talk about. The America Party, not the America First Party or the MAGA Party, but the American Party, started by a South African, i.e. Elon Musk. And Donald Trump is trying to play it off as it being, not a big deal. Third parties have never worked. Really, is that why we have the Whigs still? Is that why we have the Know Nothing Party? Is that why we have the party that's referred to as the Democratic Republicans? Is that why we have Dixiecrats? Or Dixiecrats never made an impact? I mean, they did make an impact. They took away votes from other conservatives because they were the conservatives. And then, I think that's one of the ways I think Truman won, if I'm not remembering it incorrectly. I might have that wrong, but again, I'm not 100% up on all presidential history. Like, I'm not one of the people who can name all of the presidents in a row. I probably miss 1 or 2 at least. But yeah, starting a political party, and people like, conservative radio host Jeff Carrere seems to think that this is going to hurt the Democrats more than Republicans. I guess because they have their heads up their collective butts and don't realize we're not going to vote for Elon Musk. There might be some famous people who think it's a great idea or whatever. Liberals aren't voting for Elon Musk. Leftists aren't voting for Elon Musk. Progressives aren't voting for Elon Musk. It's the conservatives who are mad at Donald Trump for not actually following through on Doge, who are going to be the most likely to split off from MAGA and go join the America Party. Now, how many? I don't know. But when you get new parties, sometimes new parties form because a third party forms and then takes away all the support from the other one, and the other one withers and dies. So if that can happen, and in the meanwhile, the other party that's not fighting over those two, that other party gets more successful. So I'm all for Elon Musk forming his American party. I'm all for him going to war with Donald Trump. Not because I support Elon Musk, he's a shithead. But I'm all for Musk and Trump going to war with each other, and maybe it'll be some mutual assured destruction and not a mutually assured distraction. See, obviously we don't know, and they wouldn't listen to Science Behind It anyway, of course. And thank you, Aaron, for also being a member for 18 months as a liberal Danimal over on YouTube. Appreciate you as well for doing that. I would weigh 30. Jeff, we should wrestle in Jello for our show. Why does Jeff get to be so lucky? Anyway, sorry. Oh, you might get more subscribers than me if y'all do that, though. I mean, y'all might skyrocket right past me because I'm still stalled. But Brett Rose, enemy of my enemy is my temporary friend. Maybe, but I mean that doesn't make Trump my temporary friend because Musk is my enemy as well. Because both of them are enemies of my enemy, right? So anyway, so anybody actually left thinks he is part of the problem. Let's see. But problem is that they keep stacking more and more shit on top of you guys. Oh, I mean that is true. They are stacking lots of shit, or throwing shit at the wall, or throwing ketchup at the wall, or what have you. Let's see. What was the other thing I wanted to talk about? I've talked about. Oh, how can I forget? How can I forget about this last part that I wanted to talk about before? I guess I'll open up the phone lines real quick for a little bit. Yeah, Donald Trump called bad bankers Shylocks. Now, I could have told you that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite for a very long time. Of course, all of the Donald Trump apologists will say, oh, but his son-in-law is Jewish and his daughter converted to Judaism and they're Jewish and blah, blah, blah. So what? If one of David Duke's kids decided to marry somebody who was a black person, or a Jewish person for that matter, does that mean that he's going to automatically start loving Jewish people, start loving black people? No, not at all. So his happening to be related by marriage to a Jewish person does not convince me that he's not anti-Semitic, especially when he does things like, teleconference on anti-Semitism, that if he loses the 2024 elections, that it's going to be the fault of the Jews. That's, scapegoating an entire religion for you losing. No one's ever done that in history, right? There's the whole he wouldn't want black people looking over his money. He wants the people in yarmulkes looking after his money, i.e. perpetuating the myth that Jewish people are good at money, which is a cause of much anti-Semitism over the course of the years, including the coverage of the Jewish merchant in The Merchant of Venice, i.e. Shylock, who was deemed to be a greedy person because the person wouldn't pay him back his money and he wanted a pound of flesh, and so yada yada yada. Jews are made into the scapegoats yet again for the horribleness and the evils of the world because we're the ones that are the ones who were lending people money back then because it was illegal for Christians to lend other people's money according to the church. So the only people who were available to lend money were the Jews. So they forced the Jews to be the money lenders, and then they attacked the Jews for being money lenders. Like, it's your fault. It's absolutely your fault that that's happened, but now you're going to blame them for what y'all caused. It's BS. And now he calls, if they work with you, they'll be fine bankers, but if they don't take your farms for whatever reason, they're a bunch of Shylocks. That cannot, in no way, there's no way that can't be taken as an anti-Semitic comment. If you know Shakespeare. Of course, do I expect Trump supporters, the ones who Donald Trump called poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries, do I expect them to know Shakespeare? Do I expect them to know, who Shylock was? No. But at the end of the day, even if they don't know it, we all know that they know that it's anti-Semitic. They're just going to play dumb in the hopes that you believe them. And unfortunately, too many people in the media will just simply say, oh, well, he didn't know, so therefore, whatever. He knew. He knew it was an anti-Semitic slur. He knew what he was doing, and he knew who it was pandering to. And was more than happy to continue doing it. Of course, he also, speaking of those farmers, also suggested that, the farmers would be potentially owning the workers who they would get from these, either concentration camps or prisons or whatever. Basically reinstituting slavery and reinstituting the idea of we're going to capture people, we're going to lock them up, we're going to detain them, then we're going to sell their services off to the highest bidder. And therefore, they'll get to have slaves again because the people who are doing the labor aren't going to get the benefit of their labor. It's the government and the farmers who will buy this slave labor who will be benefiting from the slave labor. Because Donald Trump is a deplorable piece of crap. Anyway, you don't think that Shylock is a slur, that Shylock is anti-Semitic in any way, shape, or form, then you need to go relearn some of your history, because it is absolutely anti-Semitic. And just yet another example of why it is terrifying at this point to be a Jewish person in this country. Let's continue talking about anti-Semitism, though, because I've had to deal with more people on the left who are being ridiculously stupid when it comes to what's going on between Israel and Palestine, Israel and Hamas, is the Israeli government and what they're doing to the Palestinian people. I had somebody the other day, I saw somebody who made the comment that not only was my religion, Judaism, not only was it a genocidal religion, not that Netanyahu was committing acts of genocide, not that the Israeli government were committing acts of genocide, but that Judaism in and of itself is a genocidal religion, which was like, what? This same person also said that the Israelis invaded Palestine from Europe in the 1940s. What are these people thinking? How do these people come up with this garbage that they come up with? Nobody was invading Palestine. That wasn't even a thing until it was created in 1947 by the UN Partition Plan. Nobody was invading the area from, especially Jewish people, from Europe. Jewish people from Europe were fleeing Europe for their lives and needed some place to go. And the only place that they could go is the place that the world said, look, all Jews go here because we don't want y'all. And then the same thing happened across the Middle East, where Jews were fleeing anti-Semitism all across the Middle East because their lands were being taken, their property was being taken, their businesses were being taken, money was being taken, and they had to flee with like the shirts on their backs. Where could they go? Only place they could go, the place the world said that they wanted the Jews to be, which is Israel. Was that fair to the Palestinian people, to the people who were there at the time? Probably not. Was it fair to the Jews? Probably not. Probably definitely not for both of them. But to claim that Israelis were invading from Europe is just, to me, it sounds like you're a Holocaust denier. That's what that sounds like. That sounds like Holocaust denial right there. And this is the crap we have to deal with. These are people who call Hamas freedom fighters. You're not a freedom fighter unless you're using it in the George Carlin sense. Or what do firefighters fight? Fires. What do crime fighters fight? Crime. What do freedom fighters fight? Freedom. If you're using the George Carlin example, then maybe, sure. But in reality, when they look at freedom fighters, they think, oh, these are good people. These are people standing up for the right thing. No, you're not a freedom fighter if you attack 1,200 people, murder them, kidnap others, rape others. That's not freedom fighting. That's terrorism. But these are the people who want to say they want to get rid of the Israeli ethno-state. But what about all the other ethno-states across the Middle East? You're going to keep those? Or are we going to get rid of those too? What about the fact that Hamas wants to create a Islamo-fascist Muslim ethno-state? Are you going to be okay with that? They'd probably find some excuse to be okay with that. These are the same people who will say, from the river to the sea, and not even be able to name what river or what sea. And when you act like this, when you act that ridiculous, like some of these people are acting, you make it harder to make the claims that Netanyahu is a war criminal, that Netanyahu and his administration are doing the wrong thing as to how they've reacted to 10/7. Because now you're making it seem like the world is going to be justifying anything that Hamas does. And if the world justifies anything that Hamas does, then that's how also how the Holocaust happened, because people justified what was happening to the Jews back then too. And that's not justifiable. What Hamas did on 10/7, not justifiable. Not one bit. Have they attacked a military base? Had they attacked a purely military target? Sure, fine. I wouldn't say that that's terrorism. But 10/7 was a terrorist attack. It wasn't a freedom fighter action. And the fact that these people are willing to blindly back Hamas without question just goes to show that there are plenty of people who are poorly educated, I guess, on our side as well. Donald Trump doesn't love them because they're not going to vote for Trump, but they may very well have voted in a way that helped Trump get elected anyway. Because these are the people who are being like, oh, they're both parties of the same man. No, they're not. But again, as we talked about on the last show, as we talked about in previous shows, living life in this country, living life on this planet as a Jewish person can be horrifying at many points. Because people are always seeking to justify the evils that are done to the Jewish people and not willing to even give any Judaism the benefit of the doubt. Now, does Netanyahu deserve the benefit of the doubt? No, but not because he's Jewish, but because he's an asshole, because he's using these attacks to distract from his crimes that he's been accused of. But I'm not going to sit here and just be silent because people who I should be agreeing with on almost everything are, and who I do agree with on several things pertaining to the Palestinians, like the Palestinians should be free. Palestinians should not be attacked by Israel in the way that they're being attacked by. But when you start protesting the actions of Israel by doing it in a way that is anti-Semitic and not just anti-Israel, that's the problem. And you're going to lose potential support because you're going to not be looking at this in a smart way. And I have many other videos on this channel, my Israeli-Palestine playlist or whatever. But these people are just so mind-numbingly stupid. It like hurts your brain sometimes to be able to just see people justifying the actions of Hamas. It's gross. It's morally repugnant. Now, does this make me want to side with conservatives? No, because then the conservatives will come up and do something just as morally repugnant. Like, being okay with Trump's plan of, raising Gaza, clearing out all the Palestinians from Gaza, and then turning it into a resort. That's also not okay. That is actual ethnic cleansing that y'all are supporting if you support what Donald Trump wants to do with Gaza. So, not going to have the side and support, not going to be supporting any of the anti-Muslim folks when it comes to this, because their bigotry is just as loud as the other bigotry that's going on. But I'm also not going to stand with people who are being bigots either. Net and bomb you. You have good, clever names. I've never heard Net and bomb you before. Yes, as I said, Netanyahu is a war criminal. He is somebody who should be dragged in front of the Hague. So, anyway, while we're here, let's see. We will go ahead and do that, and do that. We are opening the phone lines up now. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. If you would like to call in and have a conversation, I'd love to have some conservatives call in and debate me on these issues. Or maybe if you're somebody who thinks that Hamas is okie dokie okay, call in as well. Change my mind. I mean, I don't think it's very likely that you'll change my mind that Hamas is okie dokie. But, it is what it is, right? Yeah, Christians in America, Moon Girl, are cheering on revelations and trying to make it come true. And that's why a lot of Christians in America support the right of Israel to exist. Not because they support Jewish people, not because they, believe that, it's the right thing to do for us, or the Israelis or whatever. It's because the end times requires that Israel have a lot of Jews in it so that they could die first at the end times. With friends like that, who needs frickin' enemies? So... Let's see. Anybody want to first poke at Dan to see if he gives a Pillsbury Doughboy response? That's a Pillsbury. I think I'm less doughish than I was before. We'll one of the days I will call, but by this time of the night, though I don't know, Kimchi. That might make it even more interesting call. I mean, I'm sure your call would be interesting regardless of your level of inebriation or intoxication or whatever it is you want to call it. But I think it would be fun to have. Hey, it's Impeccable Living. Good to see you, Impeccable Living.
Oh my!
Had to turn that volume on back. Good to see you. Hell, maybe one day we should do a Liberal Dan radio edible version or whatever, where I take an edible about an hour before the show and then see how things go. Yes, a medicated show. Liberal Dan medicated. You can only call in if you're partaking as well. So. See, you forgot what day it was again. I wasn't even going to be on the air tonight, but I came on late. So after my dinner date with my beautiful wife. So, puff, puff, sip, sip, pass, pass. Yep, exactly. Choo, choo, maybe, if you're not a train, but if you're enjoying a gummy as opposed to. I tell you, I didn't want to bring any with me for my pain, for my knee pain, because I didn't want to get pulled over and stopped. But so I basically was like, all right, let's get there and let's look up if there are any dispensaries in South Carolina. And there are, even though it's not legal to buy it, whatever, because of the farm bill, you can buy some, I don't know, but I ended up getting a little jar like that big or whatever, and I still have a bunch left, and that stuff was good. Let me tell you, that stuff was strong. Wow. Yes, exactly, Josh. Don't chew and pass. That's kind of gross. Unless that's your kink, then chew and pass all you want. Thank you, Impeccable Living. I did make my image bigger, so you can see more of me. I thought it looked a little weird with the smaller image, so buy some of those gummy vitamins and pull a switcheroo. I've known people do that on cruises and stuff. I still haven't been bold enough to risk taking one on a cruise. Now, I have taken one before going on the cruise so that all the walking around I was doing on the initial day wouldn't hurt me as much, and that was fun. But anyway, never share the same gummy, just saying. Yeah, I don't intend on doing that. Again, unless that's your kink. If that's your kink, I'm not going to judge you, as long as everyone consents to the shared gummy, right? Do a baby bird thing. Hey, there you go. There is the biggest hook. There we go. Good to hear from you, Big Hook. Haven't heard from you in over a week, so good to hear from you.
Yeah, how you been, Dan? Was your vacation fruitful or painful, dragging wife and kids everywhere?
Honestly, half the time it was my dad and my stepmom taking the kids places when we were just not feeling it, because with Cassie's condition, she did some stuff Monday and then she was just absolutely drained, and the next day we both just, I think, slept until 11, and we're basically just take the kids wherever you want to go, that's fine, we'll be here. And so I did get a decent amount of rest over the course of the week, but to my wife's physical and occupational therapist delight or whatever, she was able to show they were working on her this entire time, helping her do things to prepare her for walking on sand. They would take the blue mats, gym mats, and then put things underneath it so the surface would be uneven, just to get her used to walking on uneven surfaces. And she did fine walking on the beach. She was a little afraid once the water started coming up to her feet and we started sinking in. She was like, okay, I want to go back to my seat now. I'm like, okay, let's go, that's fine. So we did get to spend a little bit of time on the beach. We spent some time in the pool, but all in all, it was a good trip. So we had a good time for the most part. So
yeah, it takes a while to get the proprioception back when you're doing recovery like that from physiotherapy.
Yeah,
that's why they make you do the things like the wobble board and whatnot, so that way you sort of regain your balance functions. with your brain and whatnot, so that way you sort of know how you should react when you are on uneven surfaces and whatnot. So,
yeah. But even though I pushed back my knee transplant a little bit because I had two things that were really interfering with it, and now my knee transplant is going to be like August 14th or 19th or whatever a Thursday is that week. But even though it can't come soon enough because it's 14th. I can't come soon enough because as I've keep going on and pushing forward, my knees are just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's just getting more. And you'd think I'm losing 120 pounds, I'd have less issues with my knees, but apparently, because your knees are so used to dealing with a heavier weight, that once you drop the weight off of it, it now shifts how everything is sitting on it, and that's what causes your knees to hurt more, even when you lose weight. Which is, I'm like, great, that's wonderful. So,
yeah, you're gonna find that one of the good exercises to do is going to be cycling, if you can, because it works your balance, and plus it works your muscles without the impact and whatnot, and it'll get some of your muscle tone back. That, along with the tens, to make sure that the muscle synapses are actually working, and whatnot.
Yeah, we do have a cycle. We do have a bicycle, a stationary bicycle in the house, which is good. So I'll have to make sure to pull that out before the surgery takes place. And then, I think we do have a TENS machine, but I'll definitely look into that as well. So.
Yeah. Well, just some advice, because I've been through the gambit myself. I've had multiple surgeries on both knees with arthroscopies, and one with a major one that from the beginning, which started me on the road of having knee problems and whatnot. And then the other thing you might want to consider is orthotics, because that can certainly maintain a healthy gait, so that way you don't end up having more wear and tear necessarily from working in your new body, as well as your whole way of walking, as well as how you negotiate everything in daily life. But anyway, there's my 2 cents of rehab.
I appreciate it. Any of the help I can get, any information.
Yeah. I honestly don't know where you guys are going, man. You guys seem to get no peace whatsoever. Trump is just going, as fast as he can, breaking as many things as he possibly can. It's, it's a shit show on steroids, where, you keep wondering what shoe is going to drop next.
Right.
The ICE thing is, it's only a matter of time before it escalates into violence. Because let's face it, it's a death sentence where they're going to be deported to. So at this point, they're going to look at it and they're going to go, what are my options?
Right.
And that's just it, and I've seen some of the videos with the ICE people, and they are as nasty as you get. It's, they're beating the shit out of these people for no reason, and it's like, yeah, I'd be fucking running for my life too if I saw a bunch of guys with guns and masks and running at you with military gear and whatnot. And I'm proud of LA. I they did the right thing. They basically mass confronted them and said, get the fuck out, and you're not welcome here. And if you play this game, we're going to be there, and we're going to be in your face. And if you push and shove, we're going to push and shove back.
Right.
Mask or no mask, or federal authority or no federal authority. You can't play it both ways. You don't get to play this game the way they are doing it. Let's face it, it's just plain white supremacy, because anyone who signs up knows the assignment is, we are the white master race, and we're going to exit everybody. We're going to just start with the brown people, but eventually we'll move up to the black people, and then eventually we'll make our way towards the Asians, you know. I
Right.
mean, this is how it's going to happen, you know. They start with one group, and then they'll move on to the next, and then they'll move on to the next. I mean, he's already started the process because he's going to say, oh, we're going to go after naturalization, and we're going to question your naturalization of being a U.S. citizen. I mean, it's all fucking bullshit now. You know, there is no other explanation for why he is doing it, because under the very definitions of an invading force, there is no fucking invasion.
Right.
There is none of that. And the ICE are not going after the criminals. They're not going after the drugs anymore. They're taking away agents who were, you know, working on human trafficking, sex cases, to go after people who are working in gardens and, you know, picking vegetables and everything else. And, you know, I mean, you got food rotting.
Yep.
You got food rotting on a port, which was meant for humanitarian aid. Now you got food rotting in the fields, which is meant for, you know, local consumption as well as nationwide consumption. And, you know, what are you going to do?
And that's why I get mad though at the whole media thing, and like, you know, even people that you're supposed to take seriously and who are supposed to be trustworthy, when they do things like they'll just cite like the Trump administration numbers, oh, encounters are down, but then not use their brains and figure out why encounters are down, and why encounters being down doesn't mean border crossings are down, because they're not looking at the people crossing the border. They're trying to go after the low-hanging fruit, the people who are causing nobody any harm. So yeah, encounters are down because they're choosing to go after people that are not crossing the border. They're going after the people who are, you know, doing dishes and picking fruit and doing other things that are not harming anybody. So and that's why I get so frustrated with the media, because they're not willing to take that extra step and point out why this administration is just full of shit. But, you know.
Yeah, but this is where everything has gone to shit, because you guys have the stupid federal exception where it's like, oh, you can't challenge these guys' immunity. And so the only accountability available is to dox them. And now you're saying, oh, you can't dox them because they're going to wear masks and they're going to, you know, and it's like that's the very definition of fascist tyrant takeover. Is men in masks going around, refusing to answer questions, refusing to be held accountable, refusing to identify who they are, who they work for, or anything. You know, I mean, this is just it. You guys are at a crossroads now. You really are, because you either fight back, and these guys will have to learn the lesson that what they're doing is unacceptable and will have life-altering consequences, not only for the people that they're pursuing, but also for them. Because otherwise, you know, let's face it, it's going to be all white supremacist people that are going to apply to go and work for ICE now. You know, I mean, it's bad enough so many of them were already working in law enforcement.
Right.
I mean, what do you do now with it? So, you know, it's frustrating beyond frustrating.
I do like how they have the app though that helps warn people whether or not ICE is, whether or not ICE is in the area to give people ample warning. Do that plus air horns plus, yeah,
you know, make sure that people know that they can run inside somebody's house, because from what I understand, some ICE agents are not allowed on private property. That's where it ends. They're only allowed to pursue them if they're on public sidewalks or, you know, out within a public venue. And, you know, you have to
that's
stop
why,
them
like,
where they are.
Dodger Stadium was basically like, we're not allowing you on our property, and they had to stop right outside the outside of the stadium because the Dodgers were like, we're not letting you come in, we're not letting you do these activities on you know, in while we're having our games or whatever. So,
well, I was proud of the Pasadena guys, because they went out there and they confronted them, and they found the hotel that they were staying at, and they went and they slashed the tires of all the ICE vehicles, and they were basically forced to walk out and be taken to wherever to via the local police, because guess what? They had no vehicles, and the people that do repairs to the vehicles said, "Oh, we're not touching them. You fucked yourself. We're not going to assist you in your evil empire aspirations of locking up innocent people and sending them to a death sentence in another country, you know." And you know, that's where we're at. And you know, I mean, as I said in the comments, maybe it's time for us all to go to an army surplus store and buy gear and put a mask on and walk the streets and confront them and say, so you can't tell the difference between yourself and us, so what are you going to do?
Right.
You know, because this is where it comes down to now. You know, they want to play this game. This is what you got to do to be able to resist, you know. And, you know, I can think of many, many things that are possible to do to make this, you know, very uncomfortable for them, as well as, you know, whatever to stop them, you know, because let's face it, these guys are fat ass white supremacists who aren't in shape. And what's going to happen if you disable their vehicles or whatever? Guess what? They're not going to walk. They're not going to be walking the streets.
Right.
They don't have the fitness. They don't have whatever. If you take away their means of operation, and you know, they can't operate. And you know, they're and if they're going to come in Humvees or these armored vehicles and whatnot, then that's unacceptable. You know, you can't allow that either. You know, but still, they still have the same weaknesses as every other vehicle out there. You know, tires can be punctured or
Right.
whatever, you know. I mean, because at this point, the problem is everybody has been looking in awe and going, what's going on? And it's like, yeah, now it's becoming an everyday thing.
Right.
And you're looking at it and you're going, I know exactly what's going on, and I see it's illegal. They're using strong arm tactics. They're punishing people who've done absolutely nothing wrong other than existing.
Right.
You know, and I don't know where you go with that, because this stuff has gone so bad now. You got, I mean, the only good thing that I think that can come out of this is that Trump ruins Elon Musk and takes away all of his toys, because he's pretty much fucked himself with the Tesla thing. So
Right.
now if they take away all of his SpaceX stuff, you know, I mean, what's he got left after that? He's got X, and then he's got Grok. And guess what? Neither of those are producing any money. So, you know, what else is there? I mean, Peter Thiel scares the living shit out of me right now, because he's another one. You can see he's a power hungry, craving, you know, theocrat who wants unlimited power. You know, and I mean, he's a hypocrite, because you know he's gay, but then he says, oh, but I oppose gay marriage. Yet he married his his partner.
Well,
I mean,
just like
what do you do?
like Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas thinks that Loving versus Virginia was not properly founded. I'm like, why is he saying that? Does he want to get out of his marriage without having to actually file a divorce? Like, come on. Like, yeah, the again, but as we said, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite.
But this is the thing now, you know, and this is where we're at, because we get into these conversations with these guys, and they are not honest brokers. I don't think it's worthwhile trying to debate these Republicans anymore, because they play the word confusion game, which is something I was rather impressed. Seymour News had a thing there, or More News had a thing there, and they said they do wordplay. So you say woke, and they go, what do you mean, your eyes are open? Is it, what does woke mean to you? Hell, what does mean to you? Does
Right.
mean a state of emotion, or an act against someone else, or is it in context to what we were just talking about, or they play deliberately stupid.
Right.
They play this game where they go, I, and then they pretend to be intellectuals, and it's just fucking horse shit. They know that they're wrong on the issue. They just want to play games. And they love watching you get angry because they're going, oh, I'm pretending I don't know how to speak English, and I don't know the meaning of words, and, I'm full of horse shit, and I'm ruling the libs. It's like, you're just proving that you're a fucking asshole. That's all you're doing.
Well, they love to own the libs, that's for sure.
Well,
even though they never really owned the libs.
And that's just it. That's the thing. They don't, they don't know. They basically exist on a level of monkey see, monkey do. So they see you use a cell phone, they go, oh, I can do what he's doing. I'll just watch him and I'll figure out what he's doing, and, rather than actually learn.
Right.
They're not intellectually capable. They're basically parrots. They mimic everything that they see and hear and whatnot, and then they play these fucking games over and over and over again. It's Charlie Kirk, it's Tim Pool, it's it's Donald Trump, with his mishmash of words, which you can't interpret in any way. And then on top of that, that's the other thing. The media tries to interpret what the fuck he says, and it's like, if he can't say it out loud and clearly, then you should say he's a fucking idiot. Nobody can understand him. You should ignore him, and he's unfit to hold office or anything. And that's what it clearly comes down to.
Right.
This is where I'm at right now. I look at it all, and it's all horse shit. It's all horse shit because you guys have basically taken the greatest gift that mankind has developed over thousands of years, and you've gone back to this German, Nazi playbook where, we pretend words mean different things, and we change the meaning, and we do this, and we do that, and, that now they go, oh, well, that's a witch hunt. Oh,
right.
Do you really know what a witch hunt means? Do you
and
really
lawfare. They love the whole idea of lawfare. They did lawfare against Trump. No, or why? They one of the things that drives me nuts is like Donald Trump has had so many more nationwide injunctions than whatever, and to them that must mean that they're out against Trump. No, maybe it just means that Donald Trump's doing more illegal crap than everybody else, and y'all aren't taking y'all don't have the mental capacity as conservatives to realize that the only people who are getting nationwide injunctions are the people who are violating the law. So,
but this is the thing. This is where the Supreme Court has gone. Oh, well, we think that this is what the forefathers of the Constitution, as well as everything else, meant by this. And it's like, no. You're basically twisting the meaning of words. And then
right.
You're saying, oh, well, here's my spin on it, because my wealthy benefactors tell me this is what they want it to mean. And that's what it basically boils down to. It's all fucking horse shit. It's all a means to an end. And the end is they want, the robber barons society back again. They want slavery to come back again. They want to take and people, jail them, force them to work for nothing, or whatnot, because they didn't have it good enough already, which is what is really so sad, because they've been making money hand over fist. They got enough money to, that they couldn't possibly spend in 10 lifetimes. And, and this is where we're at now.
Well, when they say make America great again, to me, I'm just convinced that it's not the United States of America, it's the Confederate States of America. They want to restore the Confederacy. That's the country that they actually love. Well, I think we got to get away from the title of, we're the wealthiest country. No, you're not the wealthiest country in the world. You have the largest number of billionaires, but you're not the wealthiest country in the world. What you have is unequal society where, right.
People have more wealth than the bottom 95%. Because it's, most, what's the percentage? Most probably 70% of the population down there is probably anywhere from 40 to 60 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's probably what the medium average is. So, you know, the rest of them are living high off the hog. You know, because that's basically just enough to survive if you're lucky. You know, that's if you're counting your pennies and you're living very frugally, you know, with secondhand cars and not going out and running your credit card up to the max and whatnot. You know, it's all those things that you have to take into context. And, you know, that's where you guys are at. You're on the breaking point because everybody is in a bind and everybody is doing whatever, you know, but you have a bunch of people who have bought the lie that, oh, trickle-down economics means less taxes. And it's like, less taxes doesn't mean anything when you don't control the means of prices of the goods that you need to survive.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's where you guys are at.
I just Googled what is the wealthiest country if you ignore the top 5%. So as I said, based on the provided search results, Switzerland appears to be a strong candidate for the wealthiest country when considering the average wealth per adult, even when accounting for a more even wealth distribution by excluding the very top earners. The AI is saying the United States, despite having the highest average wealth per person, has significant disparity between average and median wealth, suggesting a large concentration of wealth among a small group means ignoring the top 5% would significantly lower the average for the U.S. Switzerland, in contrast, consistently ranks high in both average and median wealth per capita, suggesting a more even distribution of wealth throughout the population. In summary, while definitively stating the wealthiest country after excluding the top 5% is complex due to limited data, Switzerland seems to be a strong candidate for the top. So it's not us, it's somebody else. Because again, as you said, we have such wealth disparity that it's all situated at the top. And again, everybody thinks that, again, trickle-down economics will work. But these are the same people who believe that are the same people who believed back in the late 1800s that they one day also could own slaves if they work hard enough. So that's why they're going to fight for the other people to be able to keep slaves, even though those people were never going to own slaves in the first place, because they are, you know.
Yeah, but
that's why Donald Trump loves the poorly educated. So.
Well, that's just it, you know, and that's the thing. Your only means to rise above are basically education, or, you know, you have to get lucky and pull an investment that you know, out of your ass that basically wins the lottery. Mm-hmm. and does that. So you either get intergenerational wealth or you end up having an education thing, and then you're basically trying to create a generation that can then pass on wealth to the next generation. But the thing is that you guys have fucked that up even, because your education system now is completely unaffordable. I mean, you used to have a system before Reagan got in where, you know, 75 to 80% of the cost of university was carried by taxes from the federal government and the state. And now it's the exact opposite. The government only provides 20% of the funding for the educational facilities, and the student is bogged down with the other 80%. And, you know, you walk out with over $100,000 worth of debt, and, you know, you can't pay it back. You will spend the rest of your life basically paying off a student loan, being unable to afford a house, a new car, any of that stuff. All with the understanding that you can only rise from the ashes if you have a skill that is in high demand, or, you know, that you can use to, you know, start your own business, or, you know, shop yourself around to people who want your skill set, or, you know, your personality, or whatever it is that you've managed to garnish with with the education that you've acquired.
Right.
You know, and like rich people ruin fucking everything.
Yep.
Oh, well, we can buy off the Republicans, so now we got control of that. Oh, well, we can buy off the Senate because now we can buy that off. Oh, now we can buy off the judiciary. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Now we control everything. Oh, we can control the universities. We can control the taxation. We can, I'm with Ojeda. It's time to eat the rich.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, you either fight back, or they're going to. You're just on a treadmill to death with debt that's going to be inherited by your kids.
Right.
And and you got no health care now. You got nothing. I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, that's the other thing. All those hospitals are going to close now because eventually what's going to happen? People aren't going to be able to afford the premiums if they end up doubling and the co-pays end up doubling. They're going to go, what? And if there isn't enough people that are going to the hospital and getting treated for the things that they need, guess what's going to happen? The hospitals are going to close.
Right. Well, there was already conversations as to, well, again, where are they going to close? I mean, some places have basically announced that, they're closing the rural clinics because they get less bang for the buck that way, which means that the people who voted for Donald Trump are going to suffer more, which, look, as I said, if you voted for the pain, you should be the first one to get the pain. But I can see what I can see the conservatives doing, though, is if you're a conservative run state, they might be like, oh, well, let's just screw over the blue areas and close their stuff and leave the stuff in the rural, which is going to harm people even more, because they don't give a crap about the people who aren't going to vote for them. So it's just, it's but it's ultimate. Basically, they voted for cruelty, and now they're getting it. So nobody should really be surprised that the cruelty happens. But I just still want to see the cruelty happen to the people who voted for it, so they can at least suffer more than what they thought they might.
Well, the only way that happens is if you end up being healthier and manage to outlive them, and you're smarter than they are. And you say, you know what?
That last part is clearly true. But problem is, we were smarter than they were the last time, the last two times he won as well. But stupid people in large numbers can still accomplish things that you don't want them to accomplish. So,
well, here's the thing, and this is the way I look at it now. You guys have done this experiment for 50 fucking years, and people are like, it's pointless. You have a failing government that doesn't seem to work except for when the Democrats are in power. And then everything that they fix 4 years later, if the Republican, or 8 years later when the Republicans get back in, they fucking tear it all down and tear it apart, and they create an even bigger mess than what was there from the last time. Yep. And, you guys are in a free fall that basically goes in spurts and trickles. Every time the Republicans are in power, it's a free fall. When the Democrats are in power, it's a trickle, because guess what happens? They slow down the free fall, and they say, we'll try and fix this, and we'll fix that, and we'll do whatever. And then as soon as the Republicans get back into power, let's tear that all apart, because that's taxes. And my billionaire buddies don't want that to happen, to have to pay for any of that. And it's like, you guys are already, you've got 50 years of infrastructure that's failing right, left, and center. And, and you know what's going to happen? The worst part is that these billionaires are going to leave you all fucking high and dry, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to pack it all up, and they're going to move to another country, and they'll do the same fucking shit to another country, and you'll be left in the smoldering rumbles of what's left, and they won't care. And if they see you make yourself back again, then they'll decide, oh well, we're back. We and then they will try and play the same game again.
Right.
Because here's the thing that gets me right now. Okay, Hitler was jailed before.
Right.
Did that stop him?
Nope.
No. He came back. And the only way to stop him was to basically kill him. You know, because he wasn't going to go on trial.
Right.
But what happened after that?
Well, he ended up
These
killing
idiots still
Alfing himself.
The other idiots who still agreed with him are still around. And this is the problem. They keep trying to come back again every single time. You know, when the World War II was over, they were trying to do the same thing. I mean, this was part of Rachel Maddow's piece with the Ultra, was that they don't go away.
Right.
They just wait in the shadows and wait for the next opportunity, and they go and they spread their hatred and their misinformation and whatnot and their ideology, and they recruit new minds who don't know any better, and that can be fooled because it's all a fucking brainwash. You know, they take childlike minds and they tell them fairy tales, and then they believe it, and then they say, oh, and here's a gun. I mean, you remember the African child soldiers, right? It's the same thing.
Right.
You take these minds that are undeveloped and don't know the difference between right and wrong, and you tell them, no, here's how we do it. You know?
Yep.
And, you know, that's where we're at now. But, you know, I don't know.
No, I mean,
I
I don't have too much.
Really,
I've
really,
not too much to add to what you're saying.
About you guys.
I'm not too much to add to what you're saying because I typically agree with most of everything you say. So it's you know, I mean, I just it's, you know, more people are going to need to stand up and resist and do whatever they can do. I'm not now again. Some people can't resist like they would want to. I'd love to be out there marching right now, but you know I can't because of my knees. You know, that sort of thing. But you know there's definitely that's why I do, one of the reasons I do this, because I have my voice and I can use my voice. But we need more people out there, and what we need fewer of are the people again who are in the media who are more than willing to just, you know, put their morals, their beliefs on hold because they're afraid of what Donald Trump may do to them. You can't do that. You have to stand up to him in every way possible. And when these people, you know, just parrot his numbers and just do whatever it is that they want to do to be able to make sure that they can make their money during the Trump presidency, where we lose in the process. So which is again one of the many reasons why I think we need new media.
But here's the thing. The thing is that conservatives say, "Oh, we are the party of freedom." No, you're not. You're the party of subtraction. You take away people's freedoms. You say, "Oh, well, we're going to reduce your taxes," which means that you're taking away services from other people.
Right. Well, this is one other thing that I was thinking about. One other thing I was thinking about real quick was that, you know, during like July 4th and everybody, there are a lot of people who are like, I'm not celebrating July 4th. I'm not doing this on July 4th because I'm not celebrating the fact that I'm, you know, in this country right now. And it's understandable. I can understand and sympathize with that argument. My only problem with that is that we need to stop allowing the conservatives to claim patriotism, not just allow them to be the ones that say it, because they claim it and they're wrong because they really don't like this country. They don't support this country. As I said before, they support the Confederacy more than they support the United States of America. But we need to basically say, yes, we are patriots. We are the real patriots because we are the ones who want what this country should be, what this country can be. We want what actually is going to be the best for the overall most people in this country, and that means rejecting MAGA, rejecting conservatism, rejecting everything. And so yes, we should be striving to actually make this country great, but unlike what they're trying to do, actually work to get it. And part of that requires us to basically say, we are the real patriots, they're not. Do not allow them to claim to fly the flag and claim patriotism while they're rejecting all of the things that this country is supposed to believe in. So
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, as Texas Paul was saying, the problem is that they've basically gone and they've taken everything. You know, NASCAR. Oh, what is it? Oh, that's the good old boys, white supremacy race club. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. They go and they take these, you know, these simple-minded yahoos out there, and they go, oh, well, see, this is ours. This is NASCAR is us. It's us good old white boys, and you know, and it's always the same, you know. And they that's where they take their identity from, and unfortunately, that identity translates to the same thing. Oh, you can't have a black person drive on NASCAR.
Right.
You know, it's always the same. You know, it's always the. I mean, what was it? The one black driver that was there. What ended up happening? There was a noose sitting there in his thing there. You know, I mean.
Hell, there were the people. There were the people who were the same way when it came to golf and Tiger Woods. There were people who were so mad that Tiger Woods was golfing, not because they were jealous of his ability, but because they didn't like the fact that, you know, a black person was beating them.
Well, not only that, but then the fact that his wife was a pretty Scandinavian blonde girl who, you know, and that was like, oh, you know, and they were like, oh. You know, I mean, they get all upset about interracial marriage and whatnot, you know, and the whole bit. They can't grow. They want to stare at the same fucking picture day after day, and it's basically a picture of a toilet with a turd sitting in it, and that's what they want to look at every single day because they think, oh, that's me sitting there in the toilet, you know. It's like.
And then, well, the only interracial marriage they might not have a problem with is Clarence Thomas and old Ginny Thomas, because nobody wants Ginny, so there's nothing to be jealous over with that one. But anyway, wrap up your final point, because I think my wife is about ready to get out of the tub, so I could probably have to help her, and I'm also getting kind of tired myself. So.
Yeah, no, well, I did most of the talking, so I think I spared you a little bit anyway.
I appreciate you. Anyway, so thank you. Good hearing from you again. Have a great one.
On Wednesday?
We will be live on Wednesday. Yes, we will. So we won't. We'll do the regular Nerdy Dan tomorrow, but we'll be live Wednesday. Same normal bat time, normal bat channel. So you have a good one.
We're playing it by ear. Okay.
Yep.
All right. No problem. Nice chatting with you again, Dan. I wish you only the best. I really, really, really worry about you guys because. You know, until somebody says enough is enough, you guys are headed towards, you know, a hellscape that doesn't have anything to offer, you know?
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it. So, anyway, I've said my piece. I hope somebody gets something from it.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one.
Take
We'll
care.
see you Wednesday, 8 p.m. normal time. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was Big Hook, everybody. One last thing before I end the show. Just this thing real quickly. Super woke. Fox News. Iconic hero movie to embrace pro-immigrant themes. Let's see. There we go. There's that. Iconic hero movie to embrace pro-immigrant themes. Hello. Does anybody realize that Superman is an immigrant? That Superman has always been an immigrant story, and how, you know, there's since, you know, the early days, the comic book writers who wrote Superman have basically said that if you treat immigrants poorly, then you are not a patriot. You are not an American. So no. Superman has not just started to embrace wokeness. Superman has been woke longer than most of y'all have been alive. And if y'all don't realize that, y'all need to just stay away from the comic books as well, because y'all are going to ruin that too. Anyway. Yes, literally an alien, Kimchi. Exactly. So anyway, we are going to end the show. Make sure that my, You know, wife has everything she needs, and I'll probably head to bed soon myself because I'm tired. Still a little exhausted from the vacation, but we will end the show. Yeah, woke equals smart. Exactly. Woke equals just awake. Your eyes are open to the injustices of the world. So those people that are not woke are, you know, that is not the brag that you want to make. Anyway, so thank you all very much. Appreciate you. We'll play 2 of the songs as normal as we head out. Thank you all very much. See you Wednesday, unless you join me for Nerdy Dan tomorrow. Peace.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan radio, talk from the left, that's right. They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap.
Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, mega fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies like temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, mega fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.